Uh, I don't know what episodes. I think it's episode 93. This is awkward.
I think I thought it was 93 too. Oh, my phone percent's at 93. Holy
It's
cow.
episode 92. Welcome back
Oh,
to
shoot.
episode 92 as we're a bit combobulated, I don't even.
Discombobulated.
This episode's starting off strong. Anyways, we're back with
It's because
episode
I'm back.
92. Yeah, we're back to a regular sort of podcast episode. It's probably our first actual podcast episode since February 15th.
A while. It's been a while. But it's
We just,
playoff time,
oh
baby.
yeah, as I said, we decided to do it on the perfect time. The NHL playoffs are done. The regular season ended last night. So this is our official playoff predictions. I think we'll just do the first round for now, and then we'll do another episode as the second round happens and so forth. And then if we have time, we'll go into who we think can win each regular season award as the regular season is over. And then maybe after that we'll have a little fun depending on our time situation.
Ooh, little fun.
Um, but we'll start in the West, since your favorite team is the only one that made it, and it was in the East. To start, we have the Central One Dallas Stars versus the reigning Stanley Cup champions, Wild Card 2 Vegas Golden Knights. What a series to start us off.
Can I just say how much this series ticks me off? Because the team that finished second in the NHL has to play a team that, if they were the team that they are going into the playoffs, would not be a second wild card team.
They're a team that uses the cap space to help themselves, which, I have respect for them for. I mean, I don't like them doing it, but hey, they're working within the rules, so I have nothing. I know a lot of people have a lot of issues with it, but hey, it's in the rules. They're not technically doing anything illegal.
No, and the other thing is like you couldn't fake Mark Stone's injury. It just so happens that he is ready to go at this time, but he was definitely hurt. I'm just saying if the team that they're gonna roll out on that ice was there for 82 games, this team would not be a second wild card team.
Yeah,
This team would definitely probably be first or second in this division. But yeah, this battle is gonna be wow, this is gonna go far, I think. Um, it's really going to come down to how the players mesh for Vegas because with all the players being hurt and all the trade line deck acquisitions they made, um, sure they might have off ice time together, but they haven't played a lot on the ice. So I think that's going to be huge. We'll see how Ottinger plays. I think that's the other side for Dallas. He was kind of shaky to start the season, but he ended really well. So we'll see which type of version we get. If we get the Ottinger from the playoffs last year, I think I'm going to go with Dallas. If not, Vegas could pull the upset here, even though I don't think it'd be much of an upset. But personally, I'm gonna go Dallas in seven. I think those fans are going to be nuts in game seven and they'll hold off.
yeah. I'm actually going Dallas in seven as well. I was doing that before. I agree with what you said about how it should be interesting. Thomas Hurdle has not played very much with the team. He's only practiced. Obviously Hannafin's been decent. I'm gonna bring it down basically. I think these teams are pretty even. I'd probably give a slight edge to obviously Dallas, being the better team. I'm gonna bring it down to goaltending. I've never really had the utmost trust in Aiden Hill. Like I don't think he's as good of a goalie as he sort of is set out to be. And we know that Jake Ottinger can just be a completely different animal in the playoffs. He's shown it the last 2 years that he can just solely win series for Dallas. So I'm gonna go based off the goalie matchup, and I'm gonna take Dallas in seven as well. But I do think that this series could go anyway. If Vegas is it's not your typical like what we're gonna
No.
see in the East where it's not your typical top seed in the West versus your lowest playoff seed in the West. It's kind of a crazy first round matchup.
So
Um,
who do you think starts in nets for Vegas?
I think
Do
it's
you
Aiden
think
Hill,
it's net?
100%.
I'm just looking at their stats right now. Logan Thomas played more games in the regular season.
Aiden Hill was hurt.
Okay, that would explain it. They are both healthy right now, and they both had almost identical numbers. This is Logan Thompson's numbers. 2.7 goals against, 908 save percentage. Aiden Hill's 2.71 goals against, 909 save percentage. So they're literally one off in both
Yeah,
categories.
I think they're gonna go Aiden Hill. He brought them to a Stanley Cup last year, and even though I don't think he's really that good, I would say that I think Logan Thompson's a better goalie than him. I think they'll go with Adin Hill just based off what happened last year with them.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll see both goalies in this series probably.
Moving on to our second Western Conference matchup, we have the Winnipeg Jets and the Colorado Avalanche. Another very good series. Winnipeg being Central 2, so they'll have home ice advantage against Colorado being the Central 3.
Yeah, I kind of went in depth on the last one, so I'll let you do the in depth for this one. I think I hate it because I'm a Canadian, but I think Avalanche, Colorado's going to take this one. I think they could take it in six on home ice. I do like the Jets team this year, but I don't know, just something about them. They always choke in the playoffs, and I do like the additions they made. But Colorado's got the experience, even though they're hurt. They've got the experience. They've been there before. They had a really good trade deadline. Um, yeah, I'm gonna say Colorado in six.
Yeah, this is me our first disagreement. I'm gonna go Winnipeg in 6. Uh, Basing this down to goaltending again. I do not believe that and Alexander Georgiev is a starting caliber goalie, especially for a playoff team. I know they won the cup a few years ago, but he wasn't the goalie for that. They still had Darcy Kemper at that time. I saw a weird stat that he has let up over 4 goals in over 50% of their games this year, which in a playoff series, when you're the guy you're looking down at the other end is Connor Hellebuyck, who's probably on his way to his second Vezina trophy, that won't cut it. So they both have firepower on the forwards. They have Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele. Obviously, the other side, you got McKinnon, Ranton, and it'll be interesting. I haven't heard anything about Landeskog. I don't think he's coming back. I know there was talk that he
I
might.
don't think so either.
I know he hasn't played hockey in 2 years. But yeah, I'm going based just solely off goalie matchup again, where I think that Connor Hellebuyck could steal this series for Winnipeg. Not saying that Winnipeg is a worse team and won't stand their own, but when I look down between Georgiev and Hellebuyck, I'm going to take Hellebuyck 10 times out of 10.
The thing that I feel like will be interesting is I know obviously Hellebuck's the better goaltender, but Georgiev led the league in wins, and Hellebuck was second, right behind him with one less. So we got the top two winningest goalies in this series. So it should be
And I
yeah,
think
like
that could just be like Georgiev's putting him in the place where he is. He's playing in front of a
oh, I
great,
agree. I
like they're
agree.
they're scoring 6 goals a game. It doesn't matter if he's letting up four goals in 50% of their games.
Yeah, like the top five goalies in wins this year were Georgiev, Hellebuck, Skinner, Shesterkin, and Bobrovsky, and I think he's the worst of the five. So I
I
mean,
would easily think
it
he's
is
worse
what
than
it
that.
is.
Yeah. So yeah, moving on, we have another Canadian team, Vancouver, being Pacific One versus the number one wild card team in Nashville.
I am gonna go Vancouver here. I think they just have too much firepower for Nashville to handle. I guess it does depend on goaltending here. Another great goaltending matchups. The goaltending matchups in the West is
Demko, is Demko healthy?
I believe so. Yes, he played their last game.
Yeah.
He did play last night on Thursday. We recording on Friday. So he will be back, which is huge for them. Obviously, Nashville has Saros. Um, Nashville really turned it on in the second half of the season after not being able to go to that U2 concert, um, which I think is pretty funny. But Nashville just doesn't seem like a team who's going to put up many goals. But again, they got a lot of defensive forwards, so it might be an issue for Vancouver to score too. I think it could be a really low scoring series. It's definitely going to be a grindy one, but I do think Vancouver's offense will beat Nashville's defense, and I'll give Vancouver in six.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump on the same thing. I'm gonna go Vancouver in 5. I don't think this Nashville. I think this Nashville team is they're just such a mid. Like I know we were talking about the other day. They're just such a mid team that they're just so mid in everything except for like Saros, Forsberg, Yossi. I just don't see them putting up much of a fight. Like you said, I don't think that they're a very offensive heavy team and they more rely on just sort of scoring a goal or two and then shutting them down for the rest of the game. I look at this Vancouver team and I don't see how they can do that. I know it honestly, Vancouver's given me a lot of like similarities to like New York Rangers last year where they almost might have too much firepower. I know Elias Lindholm has not been
Yeah,
very good since getting traded for there from Calgary. But at the same time, whenever you're looking at firepower, you still have Quinn Hughes. You still have JT Miller who had a great year. Brock Besser, Elias Pettersson. I could keep going. Connor Garland's still a good player. I could be here for a while just naming them. And I think it's a toss-up goalie. Like Saros, I think they're both top 7 goalies when healthy in the league. Um,
100%.
but I'm just gonna go with the firepower, like you said, where I think that it's gonna be a bit too much for Nashville to handle. So I'm gonna go Vancouver in 5.
Yeah, and we got one
Moving
more.
on to our final Western Conference matchup. We have a repeat of the first round last year.
This is a repeat 3 rounds, first year 3 years in a row.
No, I think they played second round 2 years ago.
The day was a second
It
round.
was second round one of the years. I could be wrong. We have Edmonton and the LA Kings.
This one scares me. This one scares me for if I'm an Edmonton fan. I could Edmonton's such a weird team. I could see them going all the way. I could see them losing this one as well. It's just so hard because when you play the same team so many years in a row, eventually the other team's going to win, right? And I wonder if this year's the year. Um, we've been saying LA is going to be good for for like 3 4 years now. Once they had all them young players, they're all starting to get older now. They have the experience. I wonder if this is the year. I don't think it is, but it definitely could be. I'm going to go Edmonton in seven, but I could definitely see this going LA's way.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go Edmonton 7-2. Usually the last 2 years in a row I picked LA both times. So this is gonna be the year that I get it wrong whenever I finally jump off LA. I just think that LA is almost too young still for to try to go against McDavid, Drysdale, guys like that. Um, I just think that there's too much. Like I don't know how well their young guys are going to be, and that this isn't really the biggest goaltending matchup. I know Stuart Skinner's not bad, but you got Cam Talbot on the other end. It's probably the weakest of the goalie matchups in the whole Western Conference bracket. But that being said, I'm not going to go against McDavid, even though I don't think the Oilers are going to go all the way this year. I just can't see it. Still don't think that they're built that well. But looking at this LA team, I almost think they're almost too young. So I'm gonna go
Yeah,
Oilers, Oilers in six.
definitely could be. And we've seen some high scoring games in these series before, so I think you're right in that goalie matchup. We might see some high scoring games here.
Moving on to the Eastern Conference. In the very first matchup, we have a Battle of Florida. We have Florida as the Atlantic one versus Wild Card in Tampa Bay.
You know what? This is going to be the fact that Florida passed Boston made for the Atlantic Division battles to be, I think, a lot more interesting. Personally, I think the Battle of Florida is super interesting. I think it's better than Boston versus Tampa or Toronto versus Florida. So I'm looking forward to this one. Obviously, they played each other 2 years ago, I believe. Yes, 2 years ago, right?
Who's that? Florida?
Florida and Tampa. They
Yeah,
played
it
two
was
years
2 years
ago.
ago.
And it was a really good series. I think this one's going to be the same. Honestly, the teams are pretty similar to when they faced last time. Um, I could definitely see an upset here, but I think I'm going to stick with Florida in this one, and I'm going to go Florida in six. I think they win it in Tampa Bay. Because I don't really think home ice matters here because it's in Florida both times. So I'm gonna go Florida in six. However, with the firepower Tampa has, if Vasilevsky can get back to the form he's known to be at, I could definitely see an upset here.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually go the opposite way. I am gonna go with the upset. I'm gonna go Tampa in seven. I just think that this Tampa team is too I still think they're hungry, even though I think they're
Mhm.
hungrier than when they were, when they didn't win the cup. Kucherov was on another level this year. He probably is between him and McKinnon for MVP. Um, but I just think this Tampa team is almost too hungry and too uh experienced to not beat this Florida team, even though I really do like this Florida team. Depending on what Bobrovsky we get, we obviously know Vasilevsky is Vasilevsky, but yeah, I am gonna go upset and I'm gonna go Tampa in seven.
It's definitely
Moving
possible.
on, we'll leave Toronto's till last, just
Okay.
so we can see that. We'll jump to the Metro, as we have four Metro teams, as even though it was a pretty bit of a shit show getting into there. We have the Rangers, Metro One, and the Capitals, who just barely snuck in.
So I have every series this year in the first round going at least six, except for this one. This one I feel like is a no-brainer. If the Rangers don't win this, something went wrong. I could see Washington getting one. I would just the OV factor and their fans are pretty nuts at home. So I think they could win game three or game four, but I do think this one goes in five. The Rangers are just too overpowered. They had such a gut-wrenching loss last year in the playoffs that I think they're going to be super hungry and super just motivated to have a good deep run this year. And I think it starts with a hammering of the Capitals.
Yeah, I have also said every single series will go six, but I have this series going one less than you. I have them being swept.
Fair
Um,
enough.
I just think this Washington team between Pittsburgh and Detroit, I think this other than the Flyers, I think this Washington team is the worst of those three. Like I think
I
that
do too, actually.
those other two teams would have given the Rangers more of a fight than this one. I'm not just saying that because I'm a Pens fan. I think they might have overused Charlie Lindgren a bit. I think he might be a bit burnt out. Even though he did look great down the end of the season, playoffs is a whole different monster. I just think this Rangers team is too overpowering for this. I'll say mid Capitals team, and I don't think that they get one in this. I think they get swept in four.
Could definitely happen.
Moving on to the next Metro matchup, we have the Metro 2 Carolina Hurricanes and the Metro 3 New York Islanders. The Islanders went on a bit of a run right at the end of the season to get in, but I would be very interested to see who their starting goalie will be there because I know Sorokin did not play too well down the stretch, and Varlamov did.
Yeah, it's so tough. I feel like I don't know. I feel like you have to go Sorokin just because he's been your guy for so long. But I feel like if the first couple games in Carolina don't go very well, we could definitely see a switch. Um, Again, it's a kind of it's a similar situation to the Vancouver Nashville series, in my opinion. You got offense versus defense here. The Islanders might be the best at it. We've seen that in the playoffs. They seem to always be the lower seed, but always put up a really good fight just because of that defensive hockey they play. Um, their issue is just scoring, which even though they tried to address that, it still seems to be the case. Um, but the Carolina Hurricanes, I mean, they've been hot ever since Jake Gensel got traded, sorry. He's been like he's just put their team to a whole nother level. This Carolina teams look really dangerous. I am gonna pick Carolina in six. I think it could go less than that, but I just the Islanders factor in the playoffs, they always steal a couple with their goaltending and their defense.
Yeah, see, I agree, but at the same time, I disagree. I think that this is going to be pretty handily in Carolina's favor. I think that it's going to go five, with Carolina being at the end. Gensel's been probably one of the best trade deadline acquisitions in the last 20 years we've seen.
Oh, it's
he's sort of proving everyone wrong that, he is not a product of Crosby and he can do it by himself. I think he's meshed so well with Aho and Seth Jarvis on that line that I just think that I don't know. I think Carolina has a really good chance to go very deep this year, and I think the Islanders sort of caught fire at the right time, but they caught fire at the wrong time where they're gonna have to play this Carolina team. So I'm gonna go Carolina in five.
yep.
And finally, our very last matchup. The Brandon, I don't I think you wanted this, but at the same time, looking back at history, maybe you didn't want this matchup. We have the Boston Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'll go first. I'll go quick to let you sort of get this. I'm going Toronto in six. I This Boston team does not scare me as much as it does to most people. Um, losing Bergeron, losing Krejci, they sort of had a gap at two center positions, and I don't think Charlie Coyle is a second center on a championship team. I think he's more a third or fourth. That being said, Morgan Geeky's had a good year. Guys like Pavel Zacha have had good year. Oh no, he's not. Is he in it?
Who
Yeah,
are you
Pavel
talking
Zacha's
about?
there. Pavel Zacha's a Bruin. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Obviously, you still have Pastrnak, and you still have two really good goalies. So I do think that it has Toronto on the goalie end, but I don't know. This Boston team just does not scare me that much. So I'm going Toronto in six.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Toronto too. I'm gonna go in seven just because it's Toronto Boston. It has to go seven. Um,
For your mental capacity, I don't know if that would be good
I
though.
can't take seven, but yeah, I did want this actually. Not to say the Bruins are a bad team, obviously they're really good, but Florida just plays Toronto so differently that Toronto just struggles against Florida. So I'm really hoping Tampa pulls that one out. But um, I feel like Toronto has a good chance against Boston. Obviously, they haven't in the past, but in the past they've had Matthews and Marner together with Willie at some points, all three of them on one, and you just had to shut that one line down, and that was the series. Where now, with the additions of Bertuzzi and Domi, you have Matthews on his own line, you have Marner with Tavares on his own line, and you got Willie on the third line on his own line. So I think having them all on their own line makes it so you don't have to defend one line. You got to defend all three. And then your fourth line, you finally have some toughness, which you haven't had in the past to handle Boston. So I think they actually match up really well this year against Boston. Obviously, they're going to have to score goals against some really good goaltending. And we'll see what goaltending Toronto gets. We could see a whole different number of goalies in this series, depending on how it goes. But I am going to go Toronto here just because I think they're more well-rounded than they've ever been. Might not be the most skilled team they've ever had, but I think the most playoff ready team they've ever had. So I'm going to go with
Yeah.
Toronto in seven.
So yeah, that wraps up our playoff predictions. I know everyone will probably disagree with it, especially the
Probably.
fact that we have Toronto winning over Boston. I feel like everyone I pick Boston based off uh history, but yeah. So yeah, we have a bit of time left, so we'll jump in sort of since the regular season's over, and just really quick who we think will win all the regular season awards. We'll start it off with the Calder Rookie of the Year. I think this one's pretty obvious, even though I would argue that I don't think it's as obvious as it should be.
I'm
Um,
the same as you.
I would, I would,
Gonna
I,
go to Connor Bedard, but I think you can make some arguments for
I
sure.
would argue that Brock Faber was
Me
better
too.
for Minnesota than Bedard was for Chicago. Brock Faber had a positive plus minus. He was the number one defenseman on a team that was close to making the playoffs. Where Connor Bedard, sure, had more points, but he only had about 10 more points than him. I know he was
And
injured.
Favor's a defenseman. It's harder to
Faber's
get
a
points.
defenseman. So I would argue that I think Faber almost had a better Calder year than Bedard, but I know that it's going to go to Bedard. So
We can all agree that Bedard's gonna get it, but it should be closer of a race than it probably will be.
correct.
Or
That
than
is
if we
exactly
start.
what I think. Um, Moving on, we have the Selke, which is the top defensive forward. I actually don't know who is in the odds for this. I'm going to search it up real quick.
Yeah, definitely search up the odds. There's obviously a lot like Barkov's going to be in there. I wonder if Matthews is in there. He's had a big step this year. I'm just trying to think of like
So the
defensive.
Selke odds are currently Sam Reinhart, Jordan Stahl, and Sidney Crosby are the top three.
You know what? Sid's had a great season. Sid's had a great season both offensively and defensively. Um, he almost single-handedly brought a team to a playoffs. Um, I've obviously seen Sam Reinhart a
Oh,
lot
never mind.
more.
I was wrong. Barkov is the favorite, is favored. It
And
goes
who else is
Barkov,
in?
Kopitar, Reinhardt, Stahl, Crosby.
Okay, fair, that makes more sense. I was like, where's Barkov? Um, I would think about Sid. I would think about Sid. I'd have a thought there for sure.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I think it'll go to Barkov now that I look at the
It
odds.
probably will, but let's get away from the favorite.
True. Let's go Jack Adams. I think there's only one option for this.
Yeah, should I be
I
nervous?
think it's got to go to Rick Tosh. Oh my God, Rick
You got it?
Tosh
Rick, talk it.
of the Vancouver Canucks. I think bringing that team from where they were last year to, over 100 points, of playoff lock is a pretty good thing in just 1.5 years. So I think it's a lock personally to go to him, but I'm open to hearing anything.
I think that's a good shout. If we're gonna shout out somebody else, let's shout out I can't remember, Andrew Burnett, Nashville
Yes,
Predators,
Nashville.
bringing this team into the playoffs. You can also talk about, oh, I'm blanking, Vancouver's coach, Winnipeg's coach,
Rick Bonus.
Rick Bowness. They did that was great too. But yeah, I feel like it's gonna go to Rick Tocchet,
Yeah.
probably.
And then so next we have the Norris, who I think it'll go to another Vancouver Canuck and Quinn Hughes. I know everybody says top defenseman, he's the highest scoring defenseman, but that's what people look for in this award. We saw it last year with Carlson, obviously over 100 points. He wasn't the best defensive defenseman, not even close to it. Is Quinn Hughes the best defensive defenseman? No, but he got the most points. Does he deserve it? 100%, he does deserve it. Not taking anything away from it, but I think people have to look at this with a different perspective that they gave it to the defenseman with the most points.
Yeah, I could also see it going to Cale Makar. Cale Makar finished 2 points less than him in 5 games played less than him. I don't know what their plus minus is against each other, but if it's close, and I could definitely see it going to Cale Makar, but it is going to go to one of those two. We can both agree on that.
Totally. Next we have the Vesna, which this award, looking at like odds, is the most heavily favored odds. Connor
I didn't even
Hellebuyck
think you had to
is by
discuss this.
far favored in this. The next closest, he's negative 650 favored to win.
If Connor Hellebuck doesn't win this award, something's
There's
wrong.
something wrong.
He's been unbelievable this year. They didn't even really change their team up a whole lot from last year to this year. I mean, they had that Pierre-Luc Dubois trade, but other than that, they're pretty similar. And from where they were last year to where they are this year, it's you can give a lot of that to Connor Hellebuck.
Yeah, and then finally the next major one we'll go over is the Hart, obviously the MVP. This it's between two people in my opinion. Um, it's between McKinnon or Kucherov. Everybody has McKinnon being favored by a pretty fair margin, but I don't think it's that far off. I think it's a toss-up between him or Kucherov. Both of them obviously had amazing seasons. Kucherov had the Art Ross, so he had the most points. But yeah, I don't know. What's your opinion?
I feel like just with the storyline behind it, McKinnon's gonna win it. Who do I think deserves it? I might go the other way. Because if Kucherov isn't playing at this level, this team might not even be a playoff team.
I would
Uh,
agree.
so if I were a voter, I would probably vote Kucherov. I think McKinnon's gonna win it though. Just because the storyline's been around him the whole season, his home point streak, the can he do it without the captain, all this, all that. He's still trucking and it's just been you haven't heard, even though Kucherov led the league in points and had 100 assists, fifth player in NHL history to do that, you haven't really heard much about him. McKinnon, it was every storyline surrounding McKinnon. And I think it's just his for the taking. But if I had a vote, I would go Kucherov.
Okay.
I don't
I would agree. I think my vote would go to Kucherov, even though I think McKinnon will win it.
know.
Um, so it's crazy how that works. Next we're done. Um, or we're done about awards, but we do have time, so I thought we're gonna have a little fun. These have been coming up on my TikTok a lot. I'm gonna get you just to blind rank 5 hockey players. So I'm gonna
Okay.
give you
Okay.
one. I'm gonna give you a player. You know how it works, obviously. But for people, I'm gonna give Brandon a player. He's gonna give them a seed, one being the best player, two being the three, four, five. But he doesn't know what player who's coming next. So it adds a bit of fun to it. So your
Are
first,
we doing this year or their whole career?
we're doing their whole career
Okay. Okay.
because
Their
I'm
whole
getting
career.
I'm giving you two players who are currently inactive.
Okay. So their entire career. Okay.
Your first player is Patrice Bergeron.
This is gonna be so difficult. Or are you gonna go from If you're going two players that aren't active, I think they're gonna be Hall of Famers. Bergeron at 4.
Four, okay.
I think that's going to be a mistake.
Second player is Eric Carlson.
Oh, shoot. I'm in trouble. 5.
Third player, Henrik Zetterberg.
Oh, okay. 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 I'm debating between, well, 2 or 3. I think I'm going to go 2.
Two, Tyler Sagan.
Ah, shoot. There we go. There we go. He's got to go at 3.
And that means your number one player is Chris Letang.
Oh, shoot. That was bad. That was bad.
That was tough. If I were to re-rank it, I'd go probably Bergeron, Carlson, Zetterberg, Letang, Sagan.
Yeah, that didn't age well. Do you
Oh,
I can do one for you. I'll just pull up random players.
sure.
How about this? You have to base them off this season, and it is strictly playoff team forwards.
Okay.
I got 5 people. They all made playoffs. We're gonna go Nathan McKinnon.
Well, if he's Hart, you're gonna give me. I already know you're gonna give me like a McDavid or a Kucherov, so I'm gonna put him at two.
You want to put him at 2? Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Atemi Panarin.
Three.
Austin Matthews.
This is where do I think he had a better season than Panarin? Yes and no. I still think you're gonna give me like a McDavid or a Kucherov. Matthews at four.
Okay. Okay. McDavid.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll put McDavid at one, even though I don't think he had the best year, but I think he's just still is the best player. And then give me Kucherov at five, isn't it?
No, I'm giving you Pasternak.
Oh, perfect. I'm actually happy with that ranking.
I put the 2 through 5 in total points, and then I had to throw a Leaf in there, so I threw Austin Matthews.
I'm actually happy with that ranking.
You did all right. You
I'm,
did all right.
but the only thing I might interchange is maybe Matthews and Panarin, but I'm
Aaron
okay.
was stellar this year.
I'm okay with it. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I think he did all right.
I don't think we have anything more, so I think we'll wrap it up there. If you
Yeah.
guys enjoyed, make sure you obviously leave a like, and maybe we'll be back next week
Go watch some playoff hockey.
or watch some playoff hockey. But yeah, we'll see you later. Peace.
Yeah.